I am so honored to be here now with a dear friend, Bo Lockwood, and also a client who I witnessed a tremendous healing journey over the last few months. And I invited Bo to come and share and bring the courage to share about this experience that he had and how his life has transformed. So I just want to introduce you to Bo, who is a student of life. And I feel like your life has been all about growth and learning how to evolve and fulfill your mission that you came here to fulfill. So thank you, Bo.
Thank you, Yulia. It's nice to be here.
So let's start with, can you share about what challenges did you experience when you first made a commitment to do the deep dive, the deep healing work? What some of the things that were hard and you're struggling with that you wanted to have breakthroughs around?
Well, I don't know if struggling with is accurate as far as like my day-to-day operation, but I was struggling in the background. Like there was like this little tornado that's been quietly following me. And until I was willing to turn around and see the tornado and actually look at it and accept it and physically walk through it, that's when I was able to break up the energy that has been stuck in me for so long, because from a very early age, I've been surrounded by narcissistic people, and it's made it very challenging for me because I'm an empath and I take on other people's emotions. And at a very young age, I thought that these emotions were mine, and it really reflected itself in a negative self-worth image of myself. So I think that's what I came into this healing journey with, is that for years, there's just been this quiet tornado that's been following me, and I wanted to finally clear it.
Wow. Yes. You said such incredible things that I know so many people will resonate with and don't even perhaps know what you shared and how you recognize in yourself that you were able to separate that as an empath, that you took on so many emotions that weren't even yours, but you thought it was something wrong with you, and that created that poor image, self-worth, not having a good sense of who you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just so you know, as you were describing that and reflecting it back to me, I like my whole body's just like filled up like with chills. Like I'm still feeling it all through my legs and my shoulders. So I understand when that happens. It's like when truth is being spoken, that's when chills arise. So that's what I'm experiencing right now. So what you're saying is just a reflection of how I feel my truth is for me.
Yes. Yes. I have chills too. So it's double confirmation.
Nice.
And that was our intention as before we went on, we started recording, we connected to our hearts, and our intention was to speak the truth with calmness and confidence, and let this conversation be an inspiration for anyone who might be experiencing something similar and don't even know that it's not you who is wrong. It's not you who is screwed up or broken.
Yes.
But that it's a collective. There's so much happening in the collective when we take on the energies of others that we don't even know that they don't belong to us.
That's right. And that was really a very critical point of my journey, is seeing that and recognizing that it wasn't a reflection of myself, that I was carrying other people's energy. And when we went through the process of clearing that energy and perhaps even returning the energy to the sender, then that's when I physically felt energy leaving my body. And I felt freer, I felt more clear, and it hasn't returned. And that's the beautiful part. It's one thing to go get a massage from a person and you feel great as soon as they're done, but a few days later you're starting to tighten up again. And I
Mhm.
haven't experienced that at all. Like ever since we went through our sessions together, and I really did the inner work to be able to experience this sense of joy, because that's what we activated, was at the very end was an activation of joy. And then that's when I left for my trip across the country, and I've just been experiencing joy ever since. So
Aw.
it's really been amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah, Bo, I want to honor you and acknowledge you, because witnessing it wasn't an easy, I know that it wasn't like joy activated immediately. It was a journey where you had to go through like a tunnel. You had to
Tunnel and
really,
go through that tornado. Had to break it
right.
up. Had to break that energy up.
Yeah.
Um, and what I've learned, I actually learned this from Teal Swan. She was the one that really brought to light for me that there's this quiet tornado following me. And she said, until you turn around and see the tornado and acknowledge it, and you have to walk through it. It's the only way you're going to break up the energy. If you continue to go around it, it's just going to continue to follow you. So like people may think like, oh, I have all these problems living here in this community. I'm going to move, and then my life is going to be like okay, because I'm going to remove myself from everything that's happening here. But what happens? It just follows you to the new place. So
Yes.
it's there's really no escaping it,
Yeah.
until the only escape is actually dealing with it. I mean, that's what I've learned for myself, at least. I had to deal with it. And I remember early on, I mean, we went through, I don't know, was it 2 months we worked together solidly every week. And I was doing the daily practice. And the first month I didn't want any more to do with it, because all this negativity, I was just like stirring up all the negativity within me, and I was miserable for
Yeah.
for a few weeks. And I'm like, why am I doing this work? I mean, this is just, I didn't want to sign up for this. And it's what I did sign up for.
You're right.
and and I almost stopped. I almost said, I don't. I remember I just wasn't sleeping well. I was just off kilter. I wasn't experiencing joy. I'm like,
Yeah.
I went through this to experience joy, and I'm like the farthest thing from joy.
Yes.
So, but it wasn't until like particularly the second half of our time together that I started to feel a difference within myself, and I started to feel lighter, and I started to sleep better. And I just and then at the very end it was just like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and that's when we went through that whole reactivation process. So
Mhm.
it was
Mhm.
really it was an incredible experience,
Mm.
and I'm glad I stuck with it.
I'm glad too, Bo, because so many people don't even start or don't go through the tornado.
Mm-hmm.
And in life, I feel like everything is an opportunity. If there is a challenge in a relationship, it's an opportunity to reveal what's incomplete and unfinished in you. Where is the healing? What is the lesson in this? Or situations, work, anything can be an opportunity to remember yourself, remember the truth of yourself and why you're here, why you are in this challenge. So I'm just really want to reflect back to you that you are one of the few who go through the tornado and see the rainbow on the other side.
Mm.
Right, but in order to
Physically,
go to see the rainbow and experience joy, we have to experience everything,
that's right.
be willing to
Exactly.
feel the shitty, the pain, and allow that energy, just like you were saying, to break up that energy, because the energy comes from the same source, whether
Mm.
it's joy or grief or sadness. I remember you opened yourself to feel sadness,
Yes.
and until you were not able to, until that time, it was like a block that was holding you away from joy.
Yes, because I kept pushing the sadness away, thinking that it would dissolve on its own. And it just was that quiet tornado that just kept following me. And
Right.
yeah. And you said about an opportunity, you're speaking as a student of life. because that's the perspective, is that, you know, I used to think that I was a victim of circumstances, like things would always happen to me. And I thought like the world was like against me in a way. It's like, because all these bad things just kept happening.
Yeah.
And, but until I was able to really see life in a different perspective, in that, you know, I've now grown to believe within myself that, you know, I'm an infinite spiritual being having a finite experience. And I came here to have finite experiences that I'm not able to have as an infinite being, such as birth, love, joy, grief, doubt, and then death. I mean, ultimately, we're experiencing death. So we can't have these experiences as an infinite being. So I believe I've come to Earth to have finite experiences as a human and experience the full range of human emotion while I'm here, because that's at the end of my life. That is a truly rich life, is when we do experience the full bandwidth of experience of emotion. And for the first half of my life, I experienced a lot of negative, what I classified or judged, there's that judgment, as negative. But now, as a student of life, everything is an opportunity to be able to learn about myself and others. So I'm just reflecting back what you were saying, as far as seeing challenges as opportunities. Yeah. And by now seeing that challenge as an opportunity, as a student of life, I realize that instead of it being a victim that things are happening to me, I'm now a student and things are happening for me. And so it's happening for a reason, and it's being shown to me. And unless I capture the learning of that lesson, then it'll eventually circle back around and happen again. I mean, it might not happen in the same exact way, but ultimately it'll continue to happen until I capture the essence of that learning. And then there's no need for it to come back, because I've now integrated that learning into my soul, and that helps me expand. And that's why I'm here. So that's the whole, that's it.
Oh, so
at least that's what I've grown to believe. And I don't know if it's true, and I'm not trying to convince people that it's true. I'm just letting you know that that's my truth. And whether it's true or not, I don't even think it doesn't even matter, because I'm living my life now with joy under this new perspective of being a student of life. So it doesn't matter if what I believe is accurate or not, because the end result is I'm now experiencing a life of joy, so I'm better off regardless. So so I don't really hold a lot of attachment to what I believe, and then, oh, somebody else has to believe it the same way. No, people can believe whatever they want. I mean, we're all here on our own individual pathways, and we're all at different points of the journey. And it doesn't make me any better or worse based on where I am in my journey in comparison to somebody else. We're all just here to evolve and grow and experience life, and then die and move on, or possibly come back. I mean, we don't know. Depends on where we are in our pathway. So yeah, that's what I believe.
So beautiful, so beautifully expressed, Bo. I wonder if you can the lesson from this experience, so others can relate, to share about specifics, if you would like, to specifics about what were the challenges that were in that background, and what were the lessons for you through this experience, and any pivotal moments that you felt that things shifted for you.
Well, I guess for me, it all started at birth, because I had a very traumatic birth. I almost died. I actually was born with a heart condition. We have 3 leaflets on our aorta valve, and they all come together to pump. And I was born with 2.5. So one of my leaflets was smaller, so blood would leak back. So my heart had to pump more blood to compensate for the blood that was leaking back. And since our heart is a muscle, it basically got stronger by overworking, so it actually enlarged itself. So I ended up with an enlarged heart, and it's just not good. So I was supposed to have open heart surgery by the time I was 5, and I ended up having it when I was 30. And the cardiologist wanted me to just keep putting it off because every year the medical advancements in heart surgery kept improving. So it was to my favor to have it at age 30 versus when I was 5, because of the vast difference in terms of our technological medical awareness in terms of how to do an operation like this. So it's just, I came in to a family where I was the youngest of 3 boys, and I didn't realize it, but my brothers were mad at me because as soon as I was born and I was the one with the heart condition, my mom really like overly protected me, and I didn't want her protection. I didn't want her worry. I would actually encourage her to stop worrying about me, and I'm fine. But that really caused like a quiet rift in the family where my brothers were mad at me because I was getting all the attention from my mom, and I didn't even want the attention. So it was an awkward upbringing because I ended up being like the golden child and ultimately the black sheep. So I am the black sheep of my family. So I was kind of like, I was the golden child and black sheep rolled into one. And so I had a very challenging upbringing, and I had and still have she's kind of backed off now, but a very controlling mother. And I learned that, her control was really due to her own insecurity of not feeling safe. So she would project that in ways to try and make her feel safe, but it was very damaging to relationships within the family because she didn't realize that her controlling behavior was really like driving us a bit crazy. And
yes.
So I feel like I'm rambling a bit. So if you can
No,
help bring me back
thank you for sharing, because if you can see that being born with a heart condition can actually be a catalyst for your growth, that that experience is not a curse, but it's an opportunity for you to evolve and grow as a soul. So
Yes.
what was the lesson out of that dynamic, that as we work together, what did you learn before you came? When you came, there was a lot of, my mom did this to me, she's wrong, like you described, you were in that victim.
Yes.
And angry, there's a lot of anger towards her and feeling like she's the one that's controlling you. What was the ultimate lesson for you that you realized? What was the mistaken belief that you uncovered about yourself that played out in that scenario with your mom?
I would say it really came down to the shame and guilt that I felt for myself. I realized didn't belong to me, and it was actually belonged to my mother and to my former wife. When I married my former wife, I thought she was the complete opposite of my mother. That's why that was a huge part of the attraction, and then I came to realize that they were like 2 peas in a pod. So I had narcissism in stereo, and it was I was in a very challenging situation because I had 2 narcissists dumping their guilt and shame onto me, and I took it on as my own, and it hindered me for many years until I really woke up to the realization that I know who I am, and I have nothing to be shameful and guilty of. I mean, we worked through some incidents that I experienced, particularly as a teenager, where I had some guilt and shame based on my own personal behavior. So I took responsibility for that. But beyond that, all this guilt and shame that I was carrying, it wasn't mine. And I think that's what really was the big aha for me, that really enabled me to clear the tornado and activate joy in my life. And all I know is it's worked. I mean, here we are, 3 months later, and I'm just definitely enjoying life and experiencing life in a whole new way. And it's just been wonderful. And so I think that's the message that I want to pass on to people, is that we all have our tornadoes that we need to deal with. And until you turn around and deal with it and walk through it, it's going to continue to follow. But once you're able to clear the air, life takes on new meaning.
Yeah. Oh, once you clear the air, life takes on a new meaning. And once you walk through the tornado and don't keep it on something that to avoid.
Exactly. Or try and go around.
To go around, right.
You can't go around it. You got to go through it. It's the only way. And I'm getting chills again. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I know that this is medicine for so many to hear, Bo, and I just want to honor you for speaking the truth, like your intention was to speak the truth.
Thank you. Feels good.
And doing the work, for doing the work.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart, this work.
Yeah. No, I mean, go into it knowing that it's going to be miserable. Accept it. Like, and what prevents us from wanting to deal with miserable is our own judgment that miserable is somehow bad. And miserable is just another emotion on the full range of the spectrum of human emotions. And when we can really embrace it and be with it, that's when we're able to acknowledge it for what it is, and then it's able to begin to break up and then leave.
Yeah.
Release.
Relax. The energy always, all it is energy. Everything, all of our emotions, whatever we label miserable or painful or suffering, in its purest form, it's energy. That's what I always help. Like, that's exactly what you got to experience, even when you were feeling like pain in your lower back or heaviness in the heart. Whatever that was, it's energy, or shame, it's energy, and it wants to move. Everything wants to move. That's the essence of freedom, when we're in the free flow, where energy moves, just like joy moves through us. Yes. Everything else wants to move.
And I would like to just, I guess, wrap this up by saying that the last session that we did together, which was the rebirthing in the pool, that really reprogrammed my mind. And this was another big takeaway for me. Like, when I would subconsciously, when a thought about my birth would enter from my subconscious mind into my conscious mind, in the past, when I would think about my birth, it instantly brought negative. It was like a negative reaction that I would have to it. Be like, because it was such, it was tough. It was tough on not only me. Like, I physically didn't make it. I physically almost didn't make it here. But my mom was going. You know, she was freaking out. She had a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old son driving her crazy, and then she's pregnant with me. So she had like a lot going on. So when I used to think about, when that thought about my birth would pop in, I would instantly feel like a negative reaction to it. Yeah. But now, through what we went through, and we went through this rebirthing process, I've noticed that it's a positive. It's like when a thought pops in about my birth, it's now a positive. It's a positive. Like, it's like picking up versus like a downward. So that was another big takeaway, another big thing that I was able to really acknowledge, that the whole rebirthing process, it's now a positive. It's a positive memory integrated into my being. I don't know if I explained that correctly.
No, very clearly. Bo, I just want to emphasize how pivotal that is, what you just said, and your experience of rewriting your birth story. Mm-hmm. That it used to be a painful story of suffering, and there was a lot of stress on your mom, and all of the stress that your mom experienced, all of the just uncertainty and worry, and she was terrified. And also the chaos. She had a lot of stress of raising two boys, and then she was pregnant with you. All of that you were absorbing. Speaking of an empath, when we
Yes.
are in the womb, we are the biggest empaths. We take everything that the mother is feeling. And to be able to create a new story where it's for those of people who might be watching who don't know what the rebirth is in the water, it's really recreating that experience of birth that is peaceful and blissful.
Yes.
That
Exactly.
experiencing the bliss where you're carried in the water and you're held and you're loved, and you know that you're coming into the world where it's pure
I'm
love.
safe.
You're
I'm safe.
safe. You're
That
safe.
was the big thing for me. I never felt safe. I mean, one thing we didn't even get into, but I think it's worth mentioning, is that I never felt safe in the world. And at a very young age, all the way through age 45, I stuttered profusely because I was scared. And and I remember as a kid that, I mean, my parents put me on Ritalin, and I mean, it was just like all this stuff to try and like help me calm down. So I was like a little ball of energy, and they called me like the Tasmanian devil because I was just like, Zee. But I was scared, and it was always treated as a medical condition. Like stuttering is viewed as like there's something physically wrong with you, and let's treat it with Western medicine, which is like a very scientific approach, and it never worked. And it wasn't until I was 45 years old when I started to do my inner work that I realized that my stuttering was driven through a feeling of not feeling safe. And 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 when I was able to resolve the emotions around not feeling safe, I stopped stuttering. And I stutter a little bit now, but people that meet me, they don't pick up on it. And maybe I've just gotten really good, but I don't think so. I think I've resolved the emotional wounds that were having me feel unsafe in this world. And when I was able to resolve them, I stopped stuttering.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's so powerful. That's so powerful to share and to really emphasize the importance of working, releasing the emotional component of whatever physical expression, whether it's physical pain or stuttering, it's a physical expression, but there's an emotional component and a spiritual component where there was a disconnect when you were born. There was a lot of emotional pain and feeling of unsafety and taking on your mom's worries and burdens.
Yes.
Yeah. And then on top of that becomes the layer of shame. When
Yes.
you are holding all of that, there you feel bad about yourself. You feel that there's something, the shame
Wrong.
is correlated with the belief there's something wrong with me.
That's right. Exactly. And then the guilt. So it was like shame and guilt because I was getting a lot of guilt projected onto me, and I was taking it on as my own.
Yeah.
So it was like that whole shame and guilt. And that's really, I remember when we first talked about doing this work, that shame and guilt were part of that initial conversation. Like that's what was really driving me. Cause I'm like, I feel shame and guilt and I don't know why. And that was the exploratory work that we did together that really helped uncover it for myself. And that was very, obviously very beneficial to being able to activate joy and have it still be joyful 3 months later.
Yes. Oh, Bo, I just feel so happy. It's the biggest joy for me, like I have this mother feeling in me that when I see the growth in you and you're thriving and being the joy activated in you, there's nothing more rewarding for me to know that, yeah, that this journey is worth it, that this work, that deep healing inner work is worth it, because on the other side there is expansion and freedom and
Yes,
joy.
exactly. And that's what I've been experiencing ever since. So it's been wonderful. So I really appreciate you providing the space for me to be able to speak my truth and share with what I've learned about myself with others, because then they might be able to take something and apply it to themselves and help their lives be better too. So it's been a wonderful opportunity for me, and I really appreciate you taking the time and setting this up and allowing me to share with you what I've done.
Yes. Yes. Is there any advice or words of wisdom that you can share with someone who is watching right now, who might be feeling that I know there's something there, but I'm scared to go there? Or I know that there might be, they might even say, I don't have time for this, I'm too busy, I just need to focus on whatever I'm focusing in my life. What would you say?
I just had the words and they just escaped me. So let me just tap in for a moment. I would say that the way that we expand as humans is that we feel the fear and we do it anyway. So it's really like this sense of boldness, a sense of courage, and really waking up to the quiet tornado that is following, whether it's myself or someone else, but the quiet tornado, become aware of it. And then have the courage and the boldness to turn around and look at it and walk through.
I just had like a blissful tornado move through my body. it's the truth, resonance of you speaking the truth.
Yeah.
Bo, thank you for you having the courageous heart. Right, it's your heart is where the courage is. And even the word courage in French is cœur, which means heart.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. So I feel like you walk the talk and you do the work. And you're the inspiration, because you're not just saying it, you actually do it. Well,
I'm possibly a singular source of inspiration, but I would never consider myself the inspiration. I'm not the source. I'm simply a source, as we all are. We all have it within us to be inspirations for others. And in this instance, perhaps I'm an inspiration for others by really helping them realize about their own quiet tornado and how they're able to feel the fear and do it anyway, and just acknowledge that at least the front the front part of the work, chances are, is going to be pretty miserable, because you're going to be stirring up a lot of negative energy within oneself. But just know that you're in the tornado at that point, and you just need to keep going. And at some point, that tornado will break up and will pass, and then it'll be clear skies. And that's what, and the rainbow will be sitting there right for you to see. And that was really cool. When I got to San Francisco on my journey, when I got to the coast right next to Muir Woods, as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, there was a huge rainbow over the Pacific Ocean, and I was just like, yes, made it. There it was. It was just sitting there. Just, I saw it, and it was just really beautiful. So that was the point. Like, when I think back on the time, because as you know, I was on the road for 5 weeks, but that was like, when I think back on that 5-week time, pulling up to that parking lot and seeing that rainbow was one of the most joyful times that I had on that trip. It was cool. It was just, to me, it was a recognition for the work that I've done, and that I had the courage to do it and activate joy in my life, and then go on a trip where it was an expression of joy. And the whole trip went amazingly well. Like I didn't really have any mechanical issues with my motorcycle. I just had nothing, like everything. And the times that I did need help, there was somebody there, like instantly just offering help. Like they were just, it was wild. So, but it was a joyful, totally joyful journey coming out here.
Mm.
But that rainbow at the Pacific was really, that was a really cool thing.
Amazing. Amazing. I just feel like when you are in the flow, when your heart is open, when your channel, when your being is open and connected to source and your joy is activated, the path opens. The external, you just feel in the flow of life. And when you trust life,
Yes.
trust, you go on this incredible adventure. You literally went on an adventure on a motorcycle across country, and you don't know how things are going to go. You don't know where you're going to sleep the next day. But when you have that deep inner knowing and connection and trust with yourself, then everything externally opens up and you receive support, you get help. The path opens and the rainbow comes to bless you and to let you know you're exactly where you need to be. Like,
exactly.
Hallelujah, you made it here. Let's celebrate.
Yes. Yes. And if there is one more thing that I could encourage people to do, whether you do it on a motorcycle or in a car or on a bicycle, explore our beautiful country on your own. Go on a solo trip by yourself for at least a month. Just take a month off and just, whether you hop in a car, just whatever, but go on a trip of our country, travel our country on your own. It changes your life. And that was and what was really cool when I left Florida to come up here to Idaho, I kind of had a general sense of where I was going, but I didn't have a pre-planned itinerary. I just did exactly what you just described, which I just kind of like floated across the country. I didn't know where I was staying, and I was camping. I camped for pretty much the whole time. I stayed in a hotel 2 nights out of the 5 weeks, and then I was either camping or I was staying with friends. But the nights I was camping, I didn't know where I was staying from day to day. I would just go. And what was amazing when I reflect back on the trip, every night I found a safe, beautiful, comfortable place to sleep. And I didn't stay in campgrounds a lot. I'm in the primitive camping because I'm on my motorcycle. I can pull over anywhere. And I just found all these great places. A lot of them were on picnic tables and in parks, and a lot of them are under gazebos. And some parks even have Wi-Fi. So I'm like, this is perfect. And I just traveled across the country and I stayed in all these different places that I had no idea they were even there until I got there. And it's like, oh, this is perfect. And it happened night after night after night. It was just like, I wasn't worried about where I was going to sleep the next night because I knew I would land in a great spot. And I always did. So that was, except for one night in San Francisco. One night in San Francisco was pouring rain, and I actually slept under a tractor trailer, like a trailer of a tractor trailer. Was sitting on the side of the road. I just like pulled over and I just like got under it because it was just like teeming rain at 1 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, enough. But the point of it is, I always landed except for that night, I landed in a beautiful spot, safe, warm, comfortable.
I want to tie it back
because I trusted life. That was my point. I got to a place where I was trusting life.
Yeah. So and when we rewrite our story, starting with the birth, like you did, you rewrote your birth story, where before it was, I'm not safe in the world.
Right.
And you created a new groove, completely new neurocircuitry, and your whole being knows that you're safe. Then you can go on adventure and trust that without any plan that you will be safe, no matter what.
Exactly. Bingo, right there. You just nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I feel like we're just one more thing I want to say for anyone watching. Final takeaway, I feel, is we are shifting from the era of survival into the era of thriving.
Nice.
We're learning that we came here to thrive and not just survive.
Yes. Amen to
And
that.
and that's where, when the joy is activated, when you're connected to your inner freedom,
Yes.
that's when you can thrive truly, because you're not basing your experience on external circumstances, but you generate from within. You have that connection, and you know that you're safe, you're worthy, you're beautiful, and everything on external reflects that.
Life is a reflection. Our external world is a reflection of what's going on inside ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you don't like what's going on in your outside world, look within and start doing the inner work and go through the tornado and deal with it and activate joy in your life.
Boom. Oh, it's been so fun and such a just enlivening, and there's nothing more purposeful and beautiful than the conversation like this and the work that we do.
That's
It's just,
beautiful.
that's what we're here. Thank you
Amen.
both so much.
Thank you, Yulia. It's really been a delight. I've really enjoyed my time with you. So thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge you, Yulia, for the work that you're doing in the world, because the work that you've done with me has totally changed my life. And I just want to acknowledge you and thank you. And may this be a nudge for someone else who is on the fence in terms of whether they should do this work or not, and whether they should do it with you or not. And just based on my own personal experience, I just want to encourage people to not only see their tornado and walk through it, but if you really need help, Yulia is a wonderful guide, and you were just there for me the whole time. And I just know it wasn't always easy, because I can be a bit stubborn, if that's an appropriate word. But so you always stuck with me, and you didn't give up on me. And I don't think I could have gone through the process. In fact, I don't know how I would have gone through the process without you, without your guidance, because had I known how to do it on my own, I would have done it long before the age of 58. So it took me this long to find the right person that could help me, and it happened to be you. So thank you. I appreciate you. I love you, and I really believe in you and the work that you're doing. And I am here to fully support you in however I can. So thank you.
Thank you, Bo. Thank you for trust. Thank you for your trust and sticking with it too. Sticking with it through the tornado.
Yes.
And if anybody, yes, I want to just say, reflect that no one is meant to do this alone. We all need a mentor and a guide who can help us move through tornado, because it's not possible. I just want to completely normalize that nobody is capable of doing it alone. And because we need to have a corrective experience. And for example, the water session was the corrective experience of creating a completely new story about your birth. Neurologically, physiologically, mentally, emotionally, was it spiritually? You create a new reality. And yeah, so anybody who, whether it's me or finding another guide, I just want to be very clear that I had a lot of mentors, and anybody I know who is thriving, they had to have a lot of mentors, or maybe one mentor who helped them move through the pain, because we are meant to go through it.
Yes. Exactly.
And activate joy.
And there's no way I could have gone. There's no way I could have done the rebirthing session on my own. It was physically impossible. So I mean, that's just one point. But a lot happened. There were a lot of more supportive acts that took place along the way. Because if you recall, like 1 month in, I was ready to quit. I'm like, I'm miserable. I don't want to do this anymore. I didn't sign up for this. Like, and I was kind of like giving you a hard time, and you just kind of stuck with me, and you just said, "Oh, just keep going." And if it weren't for your guidance at those pivotal moments, those pinnacle moments, I don't I don't think I would have kept going to the point where I would have actually broken up the tornado.
Yeah. Yes. Mm. Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to add. And that came in as soon as you stopped the recording. So I wanted to just, I thought it was worthy enough to restart the recording and add this on because I just wanted to acknowledge you and acknowledge that, yes, I do see now how everyone needs a mentor or a guide at certain times of our lives. It's just and those that do are the ones that are thriving. Like if you look at people that thrive versus the ones that don't, and then you had a correlation in terms of people having coaches and mentors and guides versus those that don't. I suspect there's a very strong correlation between the two.
I would love to learn like to do a little research about that, but
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm certain of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bo. So anybody who is looking for that kind of support, reach out. If you want to do I have a pool right there. So anybody wants to do the rebirthing, I do take clients on very, yeah, one-on-one in person, in the pool, in the water. So yeah, just reach out.
But it took us a couple months to get to that point because I remember you saying I wasn't ready because I wanted to jump in the pool at the very beginning of the 2 months. I'm like, all right. You're like, no, you gotta go through the process and just trust and just keep going. And then at the end, that's when it'll be appropriate.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. And it did feel appropriate that time. And had we done it a couple months earlier, I don't think it would have been nearly the experience that we had at the end. So it all just worked out beautifully. So thank you.
Trusting the process, right? Trusting the journey.
Exactly.
And the timing.
And it's hard to trust when it's like you're in a miserable mood and you have a headache and your back aches and it's just like all this stuff's going on. It really tests you. I got tested, and do I trust or not? And I just trusted that the tornado would clear, and it did.
Mm.
It just took a little while. 58 years.
in the
2 months.
yes in the life, in the journey of the soul, it didn't take as long, the work that we did. It was kind of like a rapid, because you were so committed. Daily practice, daily breath work, daily yoga nidra. Yes,
that's the key. Like you and I met every week, but the other 6 days I was doing it on my own.
Exactly.
I wasn't waiting for you for the next week. It's like people need to dive in, and I committed to a 60-day journey, and I did it for 60 days in a row, and it was a lot, and it was tough. Did the breath work, did yoga nidra, and then once a week I was meeting with you, and it was a lot. But I just made a 60-day commitment. It was the number one priority in my life for that 60 days. Nothing else was more important.
Yeah.
So I prioritized it. I did the work, got it done, paid off. Here we are.
Amazing. You're incredible. You're such an inspiration. Speaking of dedication and commitment, you're right there at the top.
I'm just reflecting of you. So it's because that's what I experienced with you too. So you are an inspiration for me to be able to do that within myself. Thank you.
Till next time.
Thanks.